Good afternoon. Happy Super Bowl Sunday. Welcome into the Coolin Center Studios, home of the Zig Zone, BG Falcon Media Sports Network, and WBGU 88.1 FM's show, the only show taking you through everything going on in the world of Bowling Green athletics. As always, I'm your host, Holden Roque from the Falcon Media Sports Network, once again joined by a talented team of analysts taking a chunk of time out of their Super Bowl Sunday to come here and let you know everything going on in the world of Bowling Green sports. So I'm going to start to my right here, the usual Ben Korak seat. Today we got Noah Seeley. Noah, how you doing, buddy?
It's a pleasure to be in Ben's seat and happy to be here.
Glad to have you here. Going to go all the way to my left. Dawson Pelter, your first appearance on the show, isn't that right?
Oh, yeah. Yep, I'm pretty excited.
Awesome. Glad to have you here, Dawson. Returning again, Nathan Burkett, our hockey man in the room for today. How we doing, buddy?
Pretty good. 2 weeks in a row. That has to be a new record for me.
Yeah, it's got to be a new record for you. You're not wrong. Last but certainly not least, if you're looking for a basketball scout, he is listening to offers. Foster Rustai. How are you doing, Foster?
I'm good to be here. Good to be here. If you need a scout.
Yeah, we've got a lot going on for today's show. I'm really excited to get into it. We're going to start on the ice. Bowling Green, a hockey town, the only school in Ohio, as you all should know by now, with a national championship. So for the Ohio States and the Miamis of the world, you can keep chewing on that a little while longer, hopefully. But a really, really strong weekend for Bowling Green. This weekend, they invited into town the St. Thomas Tommies all the way from St. Paul, Minnesota, the current CCHA leaders in that 1 seed, should the season have ended, today or yesterday or before the weekend. And the first night, Friday night, Bowling Green took a point. They ended up losing 3-2 off of an overtime goal, and truly just a frustrating game, I think, for fans and especially for the team. I wrote about this, as you can read, on bgfalconmedia.com, and Nathan, as the other one of us who was at the arena, I'm sure you can understand as well. A lot of frustration, and I think rightfully so. Gustav Stierenberg gets hit with a major penalty, 5 minutes, for contact to the head, a game misconduct, and is tossed from the contest. A few stats from that sidebar, which, again, you can find on bgfalconmedia.com. Stierenberg's 5th ejection of his last 10 contests. Currently leads the CCHA in penalty minutes by a staggering 92-55 margin last time I checked. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty significant.
Doesn't only lead the CCHA, he leads the
nation,
whole NCAA
in that same number.
No, yep, 92-75. It's not even close.
And not only that, since the CCHA reformed in the 21-22 season, the highest penalty minutes total prior to Stierenberg's record-setting 92 was former Falcon Sam Craggs in that 21-22 season. He had 80 over 37 games. Stierenberg has 92 in 17 games. Yeah. 18 games. Sorry, not 17. But a staggering lead, really kind of unprecedented numbers, I feel.
It gets to a point where you really have to question at what point are the penalties outshining the good he does bring when he's on the ice, because he's a good player. He blocks pucks, he scores goals, he's very physical, but at a certain point he's off the ice more than he's on it, and it's costing your team. Yeah. So you have to question that if you're Coach Willie.
And you talk to anybody around the team, they'll all tell you the same thing. A guy with a good head on his shoulders, an alternate captain for this team for a reason. But just this recent stretch, really an area of concern. And I was impressed with what Coach Williams said post-game, because, a coach is rarely ever going to call out a guy directly, but we pressed him about it, and he said, you have to control it. It's that simple. You got to come in, you got to close, you got to be smart. Every time we take a penalty, we put ourselves in a tough predicament, and often they score to tie it up. So he's going to have to learn from it. And I'm inclined to think this being a recurring issue again, a suspension for Saturday in a very critical series against the best team in the CCHA. I'm inclined to think, and I hope for Stierenberg's sake, that things are headed in the right direction. Some time to reflect. It's one thing to get tossed on Friday night against Notre Dame, and then they reviewed an earlier misconduct against Lake State, repealed it, so he was able to play that Saturday night against Notre Dame too. But having to sit out such a late season game as the Saturday night game against St. Thomas, I'm inclined to think that that's going to be, kind of motivation to right the ship a little bit for him.
Hopefully so, but I mean, going back to what Coach Willie said, he said a similar statement after the Notre Dame ejection, where you got to control it. You got to every time he takes a penalty, he's putting the team at a disadvantage, and it's just going to keep piling up. And at a certain point, it's just not worth it to constantly have him on the ice. Before this season, I would have made the prediction that for next year's team, Sternberg would have been captain, because usually if you're a junior and you get an A and you're the only junior who has an A, you'll probably be the captain next year. I don't know if you can make him captain because he's not on the ice enough. He's constantly getting kicked, and you need your captain to be on the ice when they're healthy. So I don't know if I'd make him captain now.
It's definitely something that's going to be a point of contention. I think the last 3 weeks of this regular season are going to be very telling, for Sternberg and his future, as well as just, this team, standing in fourth in the CCHA right now, as we will recap Saturday's action in a minute. But definitely some upward trajectory for sure for the Falcons. As we said, Friday night, a 3-2 result. But in overtime, the Falcons get 1 point, mirroring the overtime win they had against St. Thomas in the first meeting in Minnesota earlier this season in the 2025 portion. Going into Saturday night, however, Falcons with no Sternberg, and they put on a show. 3-1 victory for them. I mean, Birgit, what are your thoughts on that?
That was an entertaining hockey game, I'll tell you that much. Yeah, no Sternberg, which you already don't have your captain, Dalton Norris, and one of your leaders defensively. You don't have Sternberg. They give Quinn Emerson the assistant captain patch for the night. Coach Willie said that was just because they didn't want only having to have one leader, so they wanted to have someone else to argue calls.
Take a little bit of load off of Jaden Grant having to skate back and forth.
Because the rule is usually if there's a call, or there's a contention, and you need a player to go talk to the referee, you need to have either the captaincy or an assistant captain A on your jersey. So if you only have one out there, if Jaden Grant took a penalty, who's going to argue for him? So they gave one to Quinn Emerson, another one to seniors. But they stepped up. They scored a lot of goals. Jacob Steinman played an amazing game. Made 31 saves.
31 saves, only one goal allowed.
17 in the third period alone. Had a couple really nice ones. Made a 2-on-0 save. Looked like Dominic Hasek. According to Coach Willie, he learned that from Willie. I don't know if that part's true, but it was a beautiful save. A lot of beautiful saves throughout the game for Steinman. And actually, fun fact, and Ben Korak texted me to make sure I mentioned this, Sternberg was not the only player who got a misconduct, as Nathan Pilling, after the game, was given a misconduct last night. I don't really remember what he did to deserve it. I didn't see anything too egregious, but
I did not see that in real time either.
That again, I think we're also really used to Sternberg, and when Sternberg takes an ejection, he took an ejection. It's very obvious.
To be honest,
it's blatant.
Yeah, I mean, Friday night, you could kind of see it in advance. You've got an isolated skater for St. Thomas, Sternberg heading in the same direction. I mean, I think, a lot of people were probably holding their breath watching that approach even.
I've said this to other people. In my opinion, that hit on Bassini on Friday night, it was definitely worthy of a 5-minute major and ejection. I don't necessarily think Sternberg intended for it to be dirty. It's just how he collided.
Yeah, and I think
he needed to get lower.
I think that's some of the risk of the game. Like, that certain things are going to be called, and whether or not you intend for something to be the way it is, it's like you're going to have to manage those risks on some level. You know what I mean? I mean, I think I would argue, the hit against Notre Dame, or even, was it Ohio State that he got tossed before that? The second Ohio State game, the home one?
No, because for that one, it was Jeremy Minville
who
laid the hit. Yeah. And then Sternberg got a penalty on the play, but that was after the whistle.
Right.
That was not
I would argue the Notre Dame hit at least. I feel like you could argue there was kind of more deliberate motion there for sure.
Yeah, that one was definitely blatant. Jeremy Minville's hit, I still said that was a clean hit. Just the Ohio State defenseman wasn't ready to be hit, and he needs to be ready there. But I digress. Yeah. There's been a lot this year for Sternberg that was blatant, especially even after the whistle or after the game was over against Lake Superior. I know everyone got a 10-minute game misconduct on that play at the end, but after the whistle, you're picking up Lake Superior helmets and chucking them along the ice. Like, you're yelling at Lake Superior fans behind the boards. Like, at a certain point, you need to just let it go. Like, you lost 1-0. You played a strong game. You gotta keep a level head and move on.
Yeah, the biggest thing I guess will be it'll be to watch for this coming weekend against Augustana, as the 1 game suspension has been served. So it'll be interesting to see what the rotation looks like, what Willie draws up. If it's back to the same old, and you give Sternberg a chance to step back in and do things the right way, or we'll have to see how it plays out. But certainly rooting for him to get things right. Like whether a fan of the Falcons or not, it's just never the way that you want to see the games go down. Be decided by just kind of issues like that on the ice. So.
And as a fan of the sport of hockey, I love Sternberg because the physicality, it makes the game interesting. He had multiple big hits in that Friday night game before the ejection, where it added that physical part of the game that you don't always see a lot of modern players have. So to see him have that, it's really good. But problem is he crosses a line too often. And now, if he gets ejected anymore, he will immediately have to play another suspension. So that's something to keep an eye on as the season progresses, especially if we go into the playoffs.
Definitely not an area where you can afford to be making those kinds of mistakes anymore. I do want to pivot off of Sternberg a little bit and talk about that Saturday game. Friday night's post-game press conference, Coach Willie talked about, really outplaying in 5-on-5 hockey. Pretty inarguably, I think. You look at St. Thomas going 2 out of 4 on the power plays, and by far the biggest difference in Friday. And then their other goal was scored after just like a slight defensive lapse in the 3-on-3 overtime period. As he correctly pointed out, they didn't score a 5-on-5 goal on Friday night, and you go to Saturday and the defense was just incredible. You've got the 5-minute or not the 5-minute major, the early, 12 seconds into play, Quinn Emerson gets put in the box for checking, 2 minutes, and St. Thomas finds an early goal off that. But Bowling Green scored not 5 minutes later, and then scored 2 more in the next period, and they never gave up an even strength goal in 5-on-5 hockey. And, that's something he spoke to. I really, really liked what Willie said after Saturday's game, you got to give credit to the guys in the locker room. That St. Thomas team ranked 15, I want to say, in the coaches poll going into the weekend. And, Bowling Green won the weekend. They take 3 points on Saturday night. And I think really, really pivotal for them to take those points. I would argue until you get to the Mason Cup playoffs, hardest game left on your schedule is what you just played. The only one that I think is going to compare, I think Augustana's, obviously good, but, beatable. Michigan Tech, as I recall, just swept them this weekend. Is that right? Or do I have that wrong?
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Michigan Tech got a overtime win Friday and then a regulation win on Saturday. And for Michigan Tech, that's big, especially because their star player, Stephen Sardarian, was out on Saturday night with a illness. So that also might be one to watch as BG at the end of the year goes against Michigan Tech, and they're playing really good hockey too.
Yeah. So pivoting that into the CCHA standings, St. Thomas currently atop of the mountain as they have been for a good portion of the season, 47 points. Michigan Tech close behind them now, 45, closing in a way that I did not expect the Huskies to. If you told me a month ago, I'd say you're crazy. Augustana currently in third, 42 points. Bowling Green now sitting in fourth, 40 points. But they still have the advantage. They've only played 20 games, whereas Augustana, Michigan Tech, and St. Thomas have all played 22. So the 3 teams ahead of you have played more games. You've got more games left to make up some of that ground and potentially push for better seeding. The unfortunate thing, it's good to win the weekend against St. Thomas, but it's kind of unfortunate. For any team, you'd like to be pushing for that 1 seed to have, potential home ice through the playoff, especially, Bowling Green, who, for my money, has by far the best home field advantage, at least in the CCHA. But you look down the stretch for St. Thomas, they've only got 2 series left. They've got Augustana this weekend, and then this coming weekend, I should say. No, I'm sorry, they have a weekend off. Then the weekend of the 20th and 21st, St. Thomas will play Augustana. Last weekend of the year, the 27th and 28th, they'll play Bemidji State. The Bemidji fall off needs to be studied. The Beavers are not playing good hockey. I think Northern Michigan broke them. Maybe Bowling Green broke them.
So
who can say?
So for St. Thomas, basically, you have 2 games
you
left
got
and
2
2
serious
wins.
games left, and
You
you're
have-
7.
You have 2 games left and you have 2 wins. Then confirmed because Bemidji it's
I mean, yeah,
it's
I mean,
gone off
genuinely,
the
I don't
rails.
think it's not ridiculous to say they could lose both to Augustana and still end the season at 53
Mm-hmm.
points by taking all 6 against Bemidji. That's not ridiculous. If they lose those to Augustana, Augustana would then be sitting at 48, and it'd still be 5 back. Just makes the road pretty difficult that St. Thomas has Bemidji left on the schedule. I think I guess you have to hope for St. Thomas. If you're Bowling Green, caring about seeding, you have to hope for St. Thomas to lose out. They're not going to lose out.
They won't.
You got to hope Augustana could take as many off them as possible. But then, when Augustana does, you still have to make that gap up on them too. So I think I don't know. 7 points is surmountable in 3 series, but it's going to be tough. If St. Thomas splits with Augustana and splits with Bemidji, even they're not going to split with Bemidji, they're going to sweep them. But say they only take half the points, they only take 6, put them at 53. Bowling Green winning out all 6 of their last games would only put them up by 4 or 5, and I think that's a bit too tall of an ask. I'm not terribly terrified personally. Minnesota State's obviously still good. They're not what they were last year at all.
They're not. They're beatable. They're not.
They're
Minnesota
super
State.
beatable.
Yeah.
I'm worried about Michigan Tech to end the season more than anything. I think Tech's playing as hot as anybody right now.
I'm worried about
Augustana's. I'm not overlooking them either.
Yeah.
But after looking at the weekend between them and Tech, it makes me more scared for Tech because both are road trips. Obviously, Sioux Falls is a little bit farther than Houghton, but
The thing about Augustana, especially compared to Michigan Tech, I feel like Michigan Tech is a more complete team in the sense that they have solid goaltending, solid offensive skills, solid across the board. They're really talented, especially up front. While Augustana, they don't really score a lot of goals, but their defensive play and their goaltender, Josh Kotai, are just so elite that they win everything. So especially if we have young goaltenders like Jacob Steinman or Cole Moore, Michigan Tech might be a little bit more of a fear. Maybe not young for Cole Moore, but it's more of a fear for your goaltenders against Michigan Tech. But we're gonna need to see a return maybe to last year's Falcons where they would have 40+ shots a game if BG's going to beat Augustana in my opinion because Josh Kotai is just that elite.
yeah, I just think I think a defensive oriented team with the way the offense is playing right now, I'd almost rather be in that kind of battle. The 3 goals yesterday I just thought was very promising for the offensive performance, and you're looking at Dalton Norris, we're still hopeful for a return, but we're not very clear on his timetable if there is one. You can't necessarily rely on Gustav Stierenberg to be available or in the lineup if that's a decision that's made too. And being sans those, I think that is arguably the bigger problem than a young goaltender. To be honest, and this is my opinion, I'm not super worried about Steiny or
either.
Cole Moore going out against any team in the CCHA, but I think, like you said, kind of a top to bottom, more balanced, experienced Michigan Tech team, I feel poses more of a problem to this current version of the Falcons. If you go back 3 weeks where we're not having this goose conversation every other day and where Nori's healthy, maybe it's different, and I might be more on the Augustana side of concern. But regardless, Bowling Green's still very much in control of a lot of things. Home ice, nice, but at the same time, you got to just take care of business, whatever rink you're in. You look at the year with St. Thomas. Both teams had an overtime win and a regulation win. So then they both had an overtime loss and a regulation loss. Completely even split. Each team took 6 points against the other this year. So to me, it doesn't really matter where you're playing them, and that is true for playoffs. You just like it to be home ice. But I think more important is just getting more than one round of that home ice. And to be honest with you, if you're in 4, you're not getting more than one round because you're going to play Minnesota State, who's not going to drop. The 4 seed, I could be wrong on this. I don't think Minnesota State finishes above 5. I think they're staying right where they're at. I also don't think they're going to drop below Bemidji because Bemidji's too far ahead, and I don't think they're very good. But you've got a scenario where your 4 seed is going to play Minnesota State. Right now it's Bowling Green. None of those other teams above you, the 3-2-1, the only chance you get a second road game is with like higher seeds losing. I mean, St. Thomas isn't losing to the better of Ferris State or Northern Michigan. That's not happening. Michigan Tech's not losing to Lake State in a series. I don't see Bemidji beating it. So, you've got to finish better than... I mean, you got to finish second to get home ice more than one round. I think it's doable.
Yeah.
But, it starts this weekend at Augustana.
Especially with where the Bowling Green spring break lands. It lands where the first round of the playoffs is over the spring break. So if you really want student engagement and you want students in the stands, you're going to need to go to at least the second round to fully experience that.
And to be honest with you, I don't want to, give it the kiss of death or whatever, but it's not. This isn't a live. Well, it's live, but it's not a broadcast. It's the radio show. So for that reason, we're not calling commentator jinx. I think Bowling Green's going to climb into that spot, to be honest with you. I think the bit of a drop-off that we've seen in Minnesota State, Minnesota State at home, is favorable enough that through these 6 games they can make up, at least the 2 points on Augustana. I see them finishing second or third, personally.
Yeah, I would see. I'm not going to make this an official prediction because I still believe in the jinx because I'm superstitious. But I could see BG finishing second. St. Thomas is going to finish first. That one I will make a prediction.
I think the 7 points
both
is
because
just
I
too
believe it and because if they jinx them, they jinx them. But
very wise.
first, they're going to get first place. BG, I could see second or third, just depending on how their series against Augustana and Michigan Tech goes.
Yeah, and the other thing is, if you sweep Tech, then you're right there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that you could certainly... I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Tech's the kind of team that's getting swept right now. I mean, they are playing really, really good hockey.
I'll be honest, I don't see BUG getting a full point sweep. Maybe like a sweep in terms where you win both games.
They could win the weekend.
Yeah, I don't see them
think
getting a full point sweep the rest of the
No.
year. I would see, because I feel like with the teams that are left between Augustana, Michigan Tech, Minnesota State, they're going to at least go to overtime with you.
Yeah.
They're not going to let you just take all 6 points. They're going to at least steal a point in overtime.
That was going to be my question because obviously if we're in fourth, the 2 teams in front of us, we could win both of them, get 6 points, we'd be ahead of them, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that's not likely. That was going to be my question.
Yeah.
That's not very likely.
I don't think it's likely to get all the points. No, I think you do need them to slip up somewhere. But you're in an even better spot if you're able to, say Bowling Green and Augustana right now, they're 2 points apart. Augustana's in third, 42 versus 40. So if you split with Augustana, both teams get 3. You're still behind by 2. But after this weekend, you have at maximum 12 more points on the table if you're Bowling Green. Augustana's only got 6 left after that.
And that's where the 2 games behind kind of helps
Yeah,
us.
so if you split with Augustana could, sweep their other series and you would, pass them by winning one of the weekends, basically.
Yeah.
So, it's super, super doable to move. And that's assuming you split with Augustana. After this St. Thomas weekend, I really feel like Bowling Green can go in there and, I think they can take 4 points. I think if you have the kind of weekend you just had against St. Thomas minus the off-ice stuff, if you have that weekend, the rest of the year, you're golden. 4 points, at this point, I think we talked a few weeks ago, I would like Bowling Green to be able to split with those top teams. Now, knocked off St. Thomas, I don't think anybody has questions or argument that St. Thomas is still the premier of the CCHA. I think...
I do. They're still the top team. Yeah. I'm going to say that. They are.
That's what I'm saying. Nobody has any questions about that.
Yeah, they're the most talented team for sure. But BG, they've shown, and kind of like Coach Willie said during press conferences, everyone gives everyone in the top 5 credit. Where voting or different different people always give everyone in the top 5 credit, except it feels like Bowling Green. They're always just kind of left out. They're that feisty team from Ohio that steals wins. Well, the other teams, they're talented. Those are the talented teams, and BG's just feisty. Willie wants more credit given to the Falcon team, and I feel like they've earned it this weekend. Just between because not only did you get points off St. Thomas, you did it in regulation, which is and you scored multiple points again. You scored multiple goals against them both nights, and you kept them to only 1 goal on Saturday, which is something not a lot of teams have been able to do against St. Thomas. They're the number 3 team in the country.
Yeah,
for
as
goals
a matter
scored.
of fact, I believe Kevin Peel, the CCHA broadcast voice, I think he said there was literally one other game that a team was able to hold St. Thomas to 1 goal or less. They haven't been shut out. And that other 1 goal game for them was against Minnesota State, who, some familiarity there, some pretty close proximity. Not a far travel there for Mankato and
Not far
St. Paul,
not far travel for Bemidji either.
That's true.
Yeah.
But regardless, all that to say, I mean, you don't have a captain and an alternate captain on the ice. 2 of your best. I would say before the season, it'd be a fair argument, even during the season, like an argument, your 2 best defensemen, you can argue Brecken McKinley for his offensive impact, but you want to talk about pure defensemen. I mean, I think, those are your go-to guys, and you don't have either of them on the ice, and you've got your freshman goaltender in who's, been terrific. That's not to detract from him, but he is a freshman, you know what I mean? Like there's, some NCAA experience gap between him and other guys, and you go 31 saves and 1 goal allowed. Only second time a team's held them under a goal, and the block party that you brought up.
Yeah.
That kind of defense, I don't even want to talk about, the defense that like Augustana has, because Willie's got a good point. Like, what about the guys, here in Bowling Green? I think it's as even footing going forward as it could be, and just cinema coming. Like it's going to be 3 great weeks of hockey, and I'm pretty fired up.
It's going to be a great end to the season, and it's going to be a great playoff run. No matter how far it goes, it's going to be some entertaining hockey.
And, I forget who it was, but somebody on one of the press conferences touched on it a little bit. I want to say Friday's game. Just the environment. The community show. I think Ben told us that the attendance yesterday was 3,400 at the Slater. It's not the biggest barn in the world, and there was still some room in the student section, but that tells you how much this community shows out. This is a hockey town, it always has been, and especially now, like Coach Willie's got people buying back in again, and I'm really excited to see where they can go. They had a good series where they beat Tech last year in the quarterfinals. So, a lot to be excited about going forward. Are there any stones that you think we've left unturned on this before we turn the page?
I think we're good. I think we fully told the story of the weekend.
Yeah. Definitely an exciting one for sure. A lot going on, but looking forward to the next one. Bowling Green will get back to action for hockey when the Falcons go to Sioux Falls, South Dakota this upcoming Friday and Saturday to take on the Augustana Vikings at their own home. Our own Ben Korak and Lucas Kleinmeyer, the big boss. Shout out to you, Chief.
Hope you're feeling better.
Yeah, hope he's feeling better. But Ben and Lucas will be in South Dakota for the call for both Friday and Saturday's games. So, as always, Hockey Night is Falcon Media Sports Network's night here in WBGU 88.1 FM. So be sure to tune in on Friday and Saturday night for those broadcasts. And as always, check out bgfalconmedia.com for all written content, videos, and much, much more coming out with all Falcon athletics. We're going to step aside real quick for station identification, but when we come back, we've got a lot more to talk about, especially on the basketball court. Foster Rostai, I'm sure, excited to get going on that, but we're going to delay him a little bit. So we'll step away, but we'll be back. Don't go anywhere. You're still listening to the Zig Zone here on WBGU 88.1 FM.
Don't have time to tune into a BGSU sports broadcast? Falcon Media Sports Network will have you covered with live updates of home BGSU athletic events. To follow along, head over to @BG_FMSN on Twitter X.
Back here on the Zig Zone, Holden Ruck still joined by Noah Seeley, Dawson Pelter, Nathan Burkett, and Foster Rostai from the Falcon Media Sports Network. And we're going to go ahead and get into some women's basketball action because since our last show here, some mixed results. Firstly, last Wednesday, not what you want to see, a 64-73 loss against Kent State. And just not not a lot going right for the Falcons. We talked about it last show, and a little bit more of the same. Scoring efficiency, a little bit of an issue. Paige Kohler from the floor, 6 for 20, not her best showing. Janaea Donahue had a little bit of a bounce back after a not so great, week prior, I would argue, but 5 for 11 from the floor, a little better from her. Still a little bit of a turnover problem for Donahue, though. And I mean, you're bound to having those, especially when you're a speedier player, a player who's kind of doing some point guard duties as not necessarily the go-to option for that, like Kohler's kind of looked to be. So that's gonna happen, but it's been kind of a recurring problem for a player who's otherwise kind of one of the stars for this team. A little bit more mixture in that one too of the minute shares. You've got the starters going 37, 29, 25, 24, and 19 minutes, and then off the bench 14, 17, 14, 9, 8. So I mean, I would say a better mix of meaningful minutes, but just not. I don't know, just not there. Shooting overall 31%, it's fine. From three-pointer, 5 for 26, 19.2%. Not what you want. Free throws, 68.2%. That one's kind of inexcusable to me personally. You got to be better than that. And they just weren't really good enough in that department. They were pretty good about points off of turnovers. They had 20 to only 12 for Kent State. A decent number of turnovers forced by the Falcons themselves. Falcons only had 15 turnovers, whereas Kent State had 28. You win that battle by 13, and you get that many points off of turnovers, you should probably win the game if you're not just shooting really inefficiently. I think is kind of the story of that one largely. I mean, the rebound battle, I would say similar, but not very close, to be honest. You got out-rebounded by 17 in terms of defensive rebounds. Kent State had 17 more. They only had 3 more offensive rebounds, but that's a pretty good rebound margin. Yeah. Just rebounding and kind of shooting efficiency. And we talked about this last week, too. I'm not really sold on any of the bigs. I feel like the paint presence is pretty lacking for this team, and something that needed to be addressed better during the off season when that we could talk all day about the guards that graduated, but you're losing Erica Porter, and I don't really feel like you aptly replaced her at all. I don't know, Foster, Noah, especially Dawson. Any of you guys, kind of thoughts on that? That feels, at least from the Kent State game. We'll move on to the Max Sunbelt Challenge in a minute, but looking at that Kent State game, I don't know. I feel like the post presence is not there. They had comparable points in the paint, I guess, but the rebounding thing is an issue. And when you're shooting inefficiently at the perimeter, it's I don't know. I feel like you need more.
So coming into this season, I was excited to see what Moxie would have done. She was on the team last year, limited minutes, and she still has limited minutes this season. You've seen her get in some games and have really good games, but in that Kent State loss, coming off the bench, 14 minutes, 7 rebounds and 8 points. You'd like to see her kind of step up more, maybe not even in the point scoring category, just being a bigger force down low, because there's not many people in the MAC that are 6'3", and she's a senior this year, so you'll have to do another job of replacing her next season. And the problem is Taya Ellis, who's very skilled defender down in the paint. She's kind of in that weird in between power forward center kind of spot, because she's 6'1", but she just doesn't have the size that Moxie does to battle down in the paint with some of the other bigs that you'll match up against. So you're in a very odd spot where you can play them together, but that really clogs up the paint, or you can try to find a way to switch them out, rotate the two, and that still does make it an awkward fit for both of them.
Yeah, it feels for this point in the season that there should be better defined roles. I know that sounds kind of simplistic, but what you just said, I think kind of reflects that. But on a more positive note, and I know Noah, you were there, so I'll let you kind of take the lead on this. But Bowling Green gets a win against Coastal Carolina, 93-82 in the MAC Sunbelt Challenge. Certainly a a strong showing there. Noah, you want to talk about it a little bit? I know you were there.
Yeah, I mean, to say the least, everything that you said that happened in the Kent State game, the complete opposite happened in this Coastal game. At the front of the game, you had obviously Paige Kohler. She kind of had a good start. Along with that, Jasmine Fern had 3 threes to start off the game. The Falcons started off with 5 straight threes to start off the game, which is really weird if you're looking at the other game because it just didn't look the same. And then the back half, obviously, Janiyah Bland-Fitzpatrick and Lauren Gherkin both combined for over half of their points, which they're both forwards, and all of their points were scored in the paint. Gherkin had 1 3, and I'm pretty sure that was in the first half. So it was really interesting because they completely flipped the switch in what they did against Kent State. Kent State didn't have any type of presence in the paint, and then you take them into this Coastal Carolina team, which, not to mention, this Coastal team's really tall, really athletic. It was weird to see them get into the paint and work it the way that they did. It was just really interesting.
Yeah, something that's really, and I wasn't there. I was able to listen to it, but I wasn't able to be there, and so it's a little bit harder for me to contextualize. Paige Kohler's still the minutes leader. 31 minutes played, ahead of Kaya Woods had 29, Janaea Donahue had 27. A lot less volume, like way less. She attempted 20 shots in the Kent State game. She attempted 6 from the floor with 2 free throws on top of that. Made 3 of them. Made half of her shots. 10 points, kind of a quiet 10 points.
Well, all 10 of the points were in the first half. That's what was really weird is everyone that scored in the first half, they did not score again. Fern, nothing after the first quarter. Paige Kohler did nothing after the first half. And then Gherkin and Bland-Fitzpatrick came in and just took over the game. It was really interesting because as I was writing the recap, I had to switch up the entire story because it changed from Fern to Gherkin and Bland-Fitzpatrick. Holy cow. But yeah, it was really interesting to say the least.
Yeah, I think a very important shout to Janiyah Bland-Fitzpatrick. Only 1 for 4 on free throws, but I don't care about that nearly as much because she made 10 out of 12 buckets, and that is some pretty impressive efficiency. 21 points to finish the game, add 5 rebounds, a block, a steal, only 1 turnover, 2 assists. I mean, I would argue, pretty well. I don't even think I have to argue. I think pretty easily the performance of the day, doing all that in only 17 minutes too.
Yeah, and then along with that, both her and Gherkin were coming off the bench. I mean, they just took control of the game, and it was also something weird that you talked about from the Kent State game. He was subbing very interesting. He was going DO, like defense, offense, and he would sub in 4 people at a time around Janiyah Bland-Fitzpatrick, which is something that you wouldn't really think like at this point in the season you're subbing around Janiyah, who's normally on the bench, averaging 10 to 15 minutes.
But at the same time, it's kind of like play around to what's working, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's like, it's weird that you're looking at this late in the season and you're still trying to come up with stuff. But it was a great win. And obviously it is MAC Sunbelt, so it doesn't mean as much as a MAC game. But to get back on track after the 2 losses for Kent State and Toledo.
Yeah, and I think that, Warren's mentioning it too. The Sunbelt, pretty comparable, skill power level, I would say, to the Mid-American Conference. I see Foster nodding, so you can take it from the expert. But absolutely a good win for the team, and a team that's kind of been needing one. You look at where they're at in the MAC right now, still right on the bubble for the MAC tournament. They're 4-7 in conference, which is good enough to be in 8th. The MAC doesn't feel as deep to me this year for the women's side as I feel like some other years have been. 2 losing records are in tournament position right now is really interesting to me. Law of averages, maybe it'll even out a little more by the end of the season. And I guess those are teams, Bowling Green has a winning record on the season. But I think it stands to support just how good the top is. Miami's still 10-0, Ball State 10-1, UMass 8-2, CMU 8-3. Some strong programs at the top for sure. But all that to be said, a really, really good win to get you back some confidence. Another thing interesting, and kind of just the nature of the game, you look at a good portion, I want to say with over 5 minutes left in the fourth, that Janiyah Donahue and Paige Kohler both already had 4 personal fouls.
Yeah.
So definitely a contributor to the minutes in position, down the stretch. But almost feels like you kind of Not to say that they didn't draw it up this way, but you kind of stumbled into, hey, this is working really well by being forced to not, run everything through Kohler and Donahue. You had a lot of success against a Sun Belt opponent. So
100%. One of the things that head coach Fred Schmiel had talked about in the presser afterwards was, like, if Janaya didn't have that type of a game, the outcome probably wouldn't have been what we saw. It probably would not have been a win for us, just because in that second half they were looking so lackadaisical. Not to mention, I think I kind of forgot to mention this, Janaya's points, majority of them came in the fourth quarter. So Page and Donahue and all the starters were struggling in that third quarter to get it going, get the game back into their hands.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where it might not have ended in a win if Janaya didn't step up.
No. And I mean, you can look at, okay, well, this isn't going to be representative of like the top MAC teams. Coastal Carolina's 11-14 overall, 4-8 in the Sun Belt. But I mean, it's a pretty comparable line to Bowling Green, I would say. You're pretty close. You're within like 1-2 games in the win-loss.
Yeah.
Pretty much the same conference record, only one game difference there. And they're playing pretty close games too. Their losses, 68-71 against James Madison, 63-68 against Georgia State, 50-60 Georgia Southern, overtime 85-87 against Marshall, 74-80 against Marshall. They're not 66-69 against Louisiana. They're not taking big L's for the most part, really. So it's like I think arguably a team better than their record, for as close as they play teams. So I feel better about this win for Bowling Green than I did when I first looked at Coastal standing and said, okay, who cares about the 11th team in the Sun Belt?
Well, that's the other thing too. Is Coach had talked about that also in the presser. Obviously, you're going to take it as, well, they beat a team that obviously isn't that good in the Sun Belt, but he even said they're probably one player away from being in the top 3 in that conference. They're a very good team, and if you were at the game, you could tell they played hard, very, very hard, and that's another reason why we had to go towards these other options, which is also weird. Again, like we've talked about, we haven't been using the paint at all, and then you come in against this tall team and you get it done. It was a very interesting game. I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah, I think something that'll be kind of a point to watch still. I fear a little bit when you're playing the better teams. I mean, it looked like I'd argue had an okay performance against like Toledo defensively. Like 59 is not a lot to allow. Same thing when you played Miami close. 49-51. The defense feels like a little streaky to me against like some of the better teams.
Yeah.
I worry that without the efficiency that you saw yesterday against Coastal Carolina, which has been kind of at a premium for this team. If you can't produce at that level of efficiency, I don't know that you have the defense to back up an offense that's that inconsistent. That's my worry, like looking down the remainder of the schedule. I don't know where you stand with that, but that's just kind of my impression.
No, I totally agree with that, and that's why when we started talking about this, my first thing was, yeah, it's a good win, but it would have been a lot nicer if that was a Kent State or Toledo win. Just because, again, not knocking on Coastal Carolina or the Sun Belt, but you need to get a MAC win.
Right. I mean, it's about standing.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
It's not even about the quality of the team.
Yeah, because it's standing, and if you can beating a team that's in the MAC or even your rival in Toledo, I mean, that changes your trajectory of whatever is going on.
Oh, and I think a nice silver lining too is you look at the coming schedule here. You kind of trade off stronger and weaker games a little bit. You've got Buffalo next, the worst team in the MAC handily. They don't have a conference win. After that, you play Miami, the best team in the MAC. That's going to be a challenge. Certainly. Then you take on, or no, I'm sorry, not Miami. You play Ball State
at
the
11 a.m.
Second. My mistake. Yeah,
11
also
a.m.
11 a.m. Muncie, Indiana. What are we doing
on Valentine's Day?
Happy Valentine's Day. Dang, that's...
I will be tuned in. Tuned in, listen to Adam and Trey.
Foster spending Valentine's Day with his love, basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey,
So much sense.
Toledo is that night for men's as well.
Attaboy.
So I will be.
Double.
But yeah, correction to my statement, not Miami, Ball State. So you get the worst team in Buffalo, then the second best team right now in Ball State. Kind of back and forth. Then you go Western Michigan, Toledo are the next two after that. Western Michigan, a couple spots below you. Toledo, a couple spots ahead of you. So pretty even competition there for the most part. Finish the season Ohio, Central Michigan, and Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois not very good. Ohio, Central Michigan, both, by the numbers better teams than you. So you've got 4 of the teams ahead of you left on your schedule. And I would argue Buffalo and NIU are the only easy games remaining. And, I mean, I don't necessarily think that any game's easy.
Yeah, especially in the MAC.
Plus, the Buffalo and NIU games, which are games that you should be favored in anyway, those are home games, which means you have to go to Mount Pleasant to take on Central Michigan. You have to go to Athens to take on OU. You got to go to Muncie to take on Ball State. And, those are your 3 hardest games, not named Toledo, and Toledo's going to be hard regardless of which venue you play it at. So, I'm a little skeptical on your chances of holding down a spot in the tournament. I mean, looking down the remainder of the schedule, what do you think needs to happen and when? In terms of on-court adjustments or just results against some of these teams. Where do you see this team ending, and if they're gonna get a tournament bid, who are they gonna have to beat here in your opinions?
Foster, if you'd like to go first.
All right, I'll take that.
If you want, if not, I can go.
Yeah, I'll go first. They have to beat Buffalo and NIU. You have to beat the teams that are below you in the standings already. You have to beat Toledo at home. You can't let Toledo take that to the sweep the season over you. Western Michigan at home, I'd say that's one of those games where you have to beat Western Michigan.
I think you could beat the teams below you and beat Toledo and get in still.
I agree with that. I'd like one of Ohio or CMU.
First of all, I'm not buying you winning a tournament game if you can't beat any of those teams ahead of you that aren't Toledo. And more importantly, I think Buffalo, NIU, they're bad enough. I don't feel like the trap game kind of thing. Western Michigan's only a game different in MAC play as Bowling Green. Bowling Green had a really soft non-conference, so I really don't even take the overall record that much into account, if I'm being completely honest here. But I'm looking at that Western Michigan. I mean, that feels like one where if you drop it, you're going to be kicking yourself when the season ends, because that's a game. I mean, that's a much easier opportunity than at Athens and at Muncie and at Mount Pleasant.
Yes. And so you look at the team ahead of you, Kent State. They play NIU on Wednesday. That should be a win for them. So you have to find where are they going to drop games to give you an opportunity to take one back. Well, they have Miami. They have UMass. And after that, they have Akron, Central Michigan, and Western Michigan all, thrown in there.
I mean, they could lose 3 of those, but the thing is, I would argue you're not really vying for position with Kent State. I think you're just vying to make it. You know what I mean? Because Kent State's in 7th.
Yes. Yeah, but I'd still say...
I mean, I guess to be on the bubble of safety, yeah, but the thing is, if you finish with the same record as Kent State, they've got...
If you both go 3-3, you probably have a better chance of going in. I'd like, that one game just to give you that little bit of safety, just a little safety net over Kent State.
Yeah, I
because
feel that.
I believe they lost to Kent State already this season, and they lost to Kent State, obviously. So they have the tiebreaker against you, so you need something.
Here's my thinking of it personally. Obviously, to make the MAC tournament, you can take more than one loss, but to have the right amount of momentum to make a even slight run in the MAC tournament, the only game you can lose is Ball State. I think that if you want to make it past the first round and make some type of noise, you have to go on a good run here. That's how I would see it.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a team that's, in its current era, the Fritz Schmiel era, they have yet to take a game in the tournament, and I mean that's significant. It's kind of been is the monkey on the back? They say something like that. I think that's how the phrase goes.
Close enough.
But regardless, I mean that's it's not enough for this team. I think the expectation right now, or the hope is you just hope they can make the tournament and see what happens, because they're at risk of missing right now. But also big picture, that's not good enough either. You know what I mean? I mean, this is a team.
You can't settle for just a quarterfinal win.
You can say, well, no. I think more my point is you can't settle for just a berth, because you haven't even seen a quarterfinal win yet. And I mean that's going to make some tough conversations for this offseason.
Yeah.
If in the third year, Fred's kind of got his own players, had some transfers, some emergence of, Donahue and Kohler developing in his time. I mean, that's going to be a tough look and some tough conversations if you can't get a tournament win.
Yeah, I think if you go back to the start of the season, there was no question of if we were making the tournament or not, in my opinion. I feel like there was pretty consensus, like everyone had a good idea that Shmuel was going to lead us to a tournament and we were going to hopefully get a victory. So.
Well, here's the problem too, is I wasn't really thinking of it in the moment, but I'm buying more into what you were saying about Kent State Foster, and the reason I am is because if you limp into the tournament as the 8th seed, what do you think is going to happen?
Have fun against Miami, who is undefeated in conference play right now, both men and women's.
Crazy basketball happening in Miami. Oxford, yeah. But I mean, as much as I'm saying, okay, make the tournament, hope you blah blah blah, you got to get a win. You're not gonna get a win as the 8th seed.
Not against
your only chance is
if you can get up one spot. Maybe, but even then you're playing Ball State at 2, and they've only lost 1.
And
I would assume
you
want to
place a bet on who that 1 is to, Foster?
I bet it's Miami.
How much you will? No, you're right. 52-72 to Miami. So to put in context how good Miami is, beat the only other team with 10 wins in conference right now by 20.
Yeah.
But that in mind, I mean, Ball State's kind of thumped everybody else. Their closest game, they only beat Central Michigan by 6. The rest of their MAC games not as close. They beat Kent State by 10. They beat Massachusetts by 18.
Yeah.
And Massachusetts is a decent team in the MAC.
They're 3rd in the MAC, 8-2 right now.
They beat Toledo by 4, so that was a close one.
You'd have to get to Cleveland and hope one of these teams just doesn't remember how to play basketball in Cleveland. The rims are just that much different. It's a different stage.
There's already a team in Cleveland that sometimes doesn't remember how to play basketball.
Don't remind me about that one either.
Won't get you started on that sidebar, but I mean, to take a game in this tournament, I think you have to get up to 6.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that
I think you have to beat Toledo and win other games so that you can get ahead of Toledo, I think, if you want a chance at winning a tournament game.
We'd have to crunch the numbers on it, but you might even have to win that Ball State game to feel comfortable. Because, you have to look at all the other teams.
And if you can beat Ball State in the regular season,
that's true.
Then I feel a lot different about winning a game as an 8 or 7 seed.
That's true.
But given that, have you yet, correct me where you see it, name the big-time MAC team. What's the signature MAC win in the French Meal era?
Oh, jeez.
I can't tell you this year. I can promise you
not this. Last season, Toledo, maybe?
Yeah, that's probably the highest one. That was the home game, right? The home one?
The home one, yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That was a great win, but
is that enough?
Then I'm going to, play the devil's advocate again, the rivalry principle. I don't... in hockey...
If BG and Toledo aren't rivals, is that a highlight?
No.
Or is it just a highlight because we're rivals with Toledo?
I think it's just a highlight.
Burkett, did we not just see, a little in-state rivalry? Did we not just see Northern Michigan take a game off of Michigan Tech, who's probably... I would argue Tech is the hottest team in CCHA right now.
One of them, for sure.
And Northern Michigan, the worst team, or in contention for the worst team... I'd
argue Fair State's probably worse by skill-wise.
I'm inclined to think so too. I think they're currently ahead of them again.
Currently,
but
it's not.
I would agree.
Points
with
still
you.
stands. They're one of the bottom 2 teams, and
they took a game
maybe,
off because sometimes those just happen in those rivalry games. In state, you got some rivalry there. Outside of that, though, you know what I mean? Like beating Toledo, cool. Love it. You're gonna sing Isaac Zumba all the way home.
Well, let's give Toledo last season some credit. 13-5 last season.
Yeah,
made it to the finals. They were a good team last year.
No, yeah, absolutely.
That being said,
that's not a bad win, but I can't pretend that the program itself being Toledo carries no weight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a game. Even if you're a really, really bad team and you're expecting to go through, if you got an interim coach and you're expecting to go through the season just kind of phoning it in, get to the off season because a new hire is going to be made and this and that and the other, every player in that facility, every coach in that facility still circles the rivalry game. Yeah. It does not matter who you are.
Here's a way to look at it. Look at the football team. I know we talk about them a lot. They got the win over Toledo this year. Not a good season in any means. We all know that. But they got the win over Toledo. And I can guarantee you there are some people on this campus and in the program that were happy that they got the win over Toledo. And that's all that they were okay with. So that, to add on to your point, Holden.
Yeah, And I don't, again, I don't count that against them. Like, oh, well, that win doesn't count for anything because it's against Toledo. I mean, it was a good win, you're right, for 13-5. I mean, a really, really good team in the MAC, and the tournament showed that. But, I mean, if that's the only one you have to hang your hat on?
I can hang one other hat, and that's Arkansas. An SEC team, 79-78.
Okay. And I like that, and I hear that.
But
I will be the first to say, any repeat listener to this show has heard me stand on the soapbox. The scenes are fun. Sometimes there's, the comparative metric for the conference. I loved being in Happy Valley watching Bowling Green football take on Penn State.
Close game.
At some point, if you're not a team that can realistically contend for a national title, I don't care about out-of-conference play, to be honest. There's value to the program, there's experience, but when you're really putting the cards on the table, how much is that telling you about it? You look at a team. Did Appalachian State beat Michigan in football one time? Yeah, they sure did. Was that awesome for anybody who's not a Michigan fan? Probably, yeah. However, was that Appalachian State team competing for a national championship? You know what I mean? These things happen. Smaller programs will get, overlooked by, bigger programs. I'm not saying that they only beat Arkansas in that game because they were overlooked. I'm not saying that. But, at the same time, I care about what you're doing against your peers and contemporaries. The competitive teams in the MAC who are vying for that spot in the tournament. And, outside of Toledo, we just haven't seen the success. So, I don't know. I think...
Serious question.
Yeah.
Remind me, this is Fred Schmeel's third year?
Third year,
season,
yeah.
Yep.
Even if you count the Arkansas game as a hat to hang your... Or as something you can hang your hat on.
We're going to get a better phrase, but yeah.
As a hat to hang your hat on.
Right.
Put on two hats today.
He's got two hats on. Is only having two, milestone wins in 2 seasons going on now, wrapping up your third season, is that enough? Is that really that impressive?
I think the big thing is that he needs to get a victory in Cleveland. That's the biggest thing. And then maybe that happens this year, but that needs to happen.
If it was going to happen, it was going to happen last year with last year's
100%.
team. 2-point loss to Buffalo. Great. And I think that's where it's going to...
Buffalo fall off needs to be studied, by the way, but that's a separate...
that's
that's for a separate show, and they can have fun with that.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the wrap up of the season. They're gonna study Bemidji State. They're gonna study Buffalo. It's just gonna be a fall off episode of the Zig Zone.
That'd be a good ending.
The fall off.
The fall off.
I like that. We'll circle back on that. You know what? you have me intrigued. Yeah. There's a lot. They got 7 games to go. I think you got to take a win against.
You have to win 5 of them.
Yeah, I agree. At least
the way I'm viewing it is that treating every game as a playoff game.
Yeah, 100%.
You have to.
Yeah.
Every game is your last.
Yeah.
In this last stretch.
And I think what's important to note too that we've kind of touched on is the turnovers. BG's been forcing a lot of turnovers, right? You look at the last 2 games, Kent State and Coastal Carolina, 58 turnovers combined, but they're also giving up a lot of turnovers. Against Coastal Carolina, 29 turnovers, right? Yeah. So that's kind of worrisome, especially if you give up 29 turnovers against Ball State, you're losing by 30.
100%.
You got to clean that up.
And you compound that, and I know the Coastal Carolina is only the most recent, but recency bias does take over on some level. You're going to have that many turnovers and get your 2 stars in foul trouble. I mean, you're not winning a game against a tournament contender.
Absolutely.
Playing like that.
And what I look at too is we talk about their field goal percentage, right? Against Kent State, it was 37%. When you get those turnovers, that's the easiest offense in basketball to play because you're in that. You can't get your defense set, right? So how are you only shooting 37% when you're in transition? You got to clean that up for sure.
I mean, that sounds to me like just kind of rushing things and not finding good shots or Foster.
It's the not finding good shots. This team relies heavily on threes, and I know I've talked to you, Holden, about it on the show before. I'd like them to take a little bit of a step back because we saw...
Or a step in, I guess.
Hey, that's pretty good. And control the paint.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw it last night versus Coastal. When they controlled the paint, they had their...
Everybody go up half a shoe size.
Yeah, everybody take one step on the line, take those long twos, and you'll be good.
Who knows, though, what this looks like after yesterday's game. I mean, maybe they go back to the drawing board and they're like, hey, let's start going through Gherkin and Janiyah. I mean, who knows? Because if that's going to get you the win, and I mean, you still have 7 games yet left. yes, you have to win a lot of them. But if you want to make a run in the tournament, you're going to have to figure that out now, sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you. I'd like to see, I'm kind of glad that you play Buffalo next because I want to see them, get a little creative here. Let Fred, by all rights a good coach. I want to see him get into the bag of tricks, see what they can pull out. Because, the thing that's really just lingering in my mind is 10 for 12 is a really flashy, efficient number. I would like to see Bland Fitzpatrick have, more opportunities like she did Saturday.
Yeah. And she's had a couple games where she's had a lot of opportunities and scored in double-digit points, but other games they just go away from her, and that may be just the offense that is growing up is not going to her, or just maybe she's not demanding the ball down low, and that's sometimes with bigs you don't see them demanding it down low, and sometimes you'd like to see them voice themselves down low a little bit more.
I also think you said it pretty well, Foster, right off the rip when you said that they shoot a lot of threes, and that might be why they don't go towards the paint as much. It's not set up for that, and maybe that's just what they need to do, is they need to set it up so it is.
Yeah, but a late mentality change is
bad.
Yeah, that's a rough kind of change. I agree,
and that's why it's tough, and it's hard, especially because he's in his third year. You can't miss the tournament this year.
Yeah.
So is it bad to change right now and maybe you'll stick it to the tournament, but you're not going to win anything, or do you stick with what you have? And it's a hard
it's a hard choice that he's in right now.
Women's basketball is in a hard spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not going to get any easier for them down the stretch, but it'll certainly be an interesting one to keep tabs on. So we're going to move on here as we are at the top of the hour. But women's basketball will be back in action this Tuesday, February 10th at 7 p.m. The broadcast of that will be here on WBGU 88.1 FM, and our own Adam Duffin and Mr. Dawson Pelter over here will be on the broadcast for that. So check that out. Once again, that'll be on WBGU 88.1 FM. You can also check it out on bgfalconmedia.com, and check out bgfalconmedia.com for all of our recaps, sidebars, and much, much more around Falcon athletic coverage. We're at the hour here. I'm going to ask you a little question, a Super Bowl related question here when we come back from station identification. So I want you to think about everything you know about every Super Bowl, because this is going to be a real tough question to ask. So we really think hard. You're going to have to dig deep in your knowledge bag to have a good answer for this. It's a subjective question, to be clear. It's not like trivia, but it's going to be a tough one. So we're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back. We've got a lot more action here on the Zig Zone on WBGU 88.1 FM.
You are listening to Falcon Media Sports Network coverage on WBGU 88.1 FM in Bowling Green, Ohio.
Hi, this is Christine Lavin. Please listen to The Folk Show, hosted by my old friend David Sears, Thursdays from 6 to 8 p.m. on WBGU 88.1 and streaming at bgfalconmedia.com.
Welcome back here. We're in the second half of the Zig Zone on WBGU 88.1 FM. Once again, your Falcon Media Sports Network crew holding up your host today, joined by Dawson Pelter, Nathan Burkett, Foster Rosti, and Noah Seeley. I'm really impressed with myself for getting through those without tripping up on the words, because I didn't put it in front of me. Anyways, I told you we were going to have a little Super Bowl.
You want a medal?
But anyways, we're going to go ahead and go through this question, because I just want to know your opinions, your predictions. Not for a score, though. This is a really dumb one, but I thought it was funny. What color of Gatorade is going to be dumped on the winning coach tonight?
All right, anyone have an idea? I think it depends on who wins.
So my thing is, I think that the colors usually steer away from being like, I don't feel like you usually see a Gatorade color that's the same as like the color of the team playing in the Super Bowl. I can't remember. I don't remember seeing that.
You may see, if the Patriots win, it may be like the light blue.
Yeah,
but
that's
even
what I'm
then,
thinking.
I'm gonna go with orange.
I like that. I'm also.
It feels like the safest.
I'm gonna go with red.
That's a good
official prediction.
Red.
I like purple. Riptide Rush is my favorite Gatorade.
Oh,
Best Gatorade of all time. Riptide Rush, best Gatorade flavor of all time. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying about it typically not being the colors. So maybe Seahawks kind of have that blue. Patriots have a little red. Mix them together, a little purple action.
Little purple
I don't know.
action.
I don't know.
Hey.
I don't know.
Noah Sealy, what you got?
I am going to go with light blue because I feel like that's something that both of them could use. I don't know. Light blue's
Light blue's a
Top
very
tier.
it's a very sports color.
Yes,
like,
it is. It
In
is.
high school, that's what we had. Light blue.
Ow.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah,
really. I was in
I
college.
didn't know they had Gatorade when you were in high school, Foster.
Way back when we grinded it up ourselves.
The OG batch.
I'm gonna round out with another unique pick just because I think it's a classic. It's simple. I'm gonna go with lemon lime yellow.
Oh yeah,
Oh, that's a good one too.
So I'm looking forward to checking back into this if one of us is right tonight for bragging rights of no good reason. Stupidest prediction. But
You may see a tweet later on my Twitter that says called it.
And it wasn't about the game.
No context.
I'll pull the clip, don't worry. That in mind, we're going to go ahead and move on because Foster, as involved as he's been, has been patiently waiting, I'm sure, because, ups and downs this weekend for a lot of Falcon sports. We talked about, the things going on with Gustav Sternberg, not exactly a high point for hockey this weekend. I don't think any team had a lower low point than men's basketball. Looking back, on Tuesday, they took a win, a pretty convincing win, over Ball State, 77-52. And, you look at the results of that, I think there's a lot to be happy about. That's a MAC win. And, I did say, I'm very much on record saying I value the MAC games a heck of a lot more than the out-of-conference games. And I still stand by that. That being said, yesterday's performance astonishes, and not in the good way. You go from Tuesday, the largest MAC margin of victory in Todd Simon's tenure. You win by 25. I mean, that's a good win. Ball State's, kind of a middle of the road MAC team, 3-7, towards the bottom.
They
but,
got some good players there. Armani Ziegler is leading their team in points, rebounds, assists, and steals. So
a team that's within a game of being in the tournament. So I mean, it's not. I mean, that's a really good, a really legitimate win. 54-91.
Yeah.
You lose 91-54 in the MAC Sun Belt Challenge. Now, again, does it count against your MAC schedule or your MAC record? No, it does not. But Foster, I'm gonna let you go ahead and get into some stats.
All right.
Because I don't know, man.
I think we should start out with this is the largest point margin victory for Arkansas State since a 99-56 win over Central Arkansas in 2013. They have not beaten a team this badly since the 2013 season. 37 points is how badly they beat Bowling Green.
I want to also contextualize in the first leg of the MAC Sun Belt Challenge in Athens, Arkansas State took the win 89-85. So, the start of the year against, a pretty good Ohio team, they won by 4.
Yes.
So,
They are a good team.
they're a solid team. I mean,
Yes.
they're pretty middle of the road in the Sun Belt right now. They've got a 6-6 conference record. They're 15-10 overall with, a not especially dominant out of conference schedule themselves. So, a fine record,
Yes.
certainly. And, contending, pretty good wins against some of their conference opponents, but, a mixed bag. 99-74 against Troy.
Troy's a very good team in
Yeah.
the Sun Belt.
A good team.
Beat Akron, I believe, in the Sun Belt Challenge this weekend.
14-point loss against South Alabama. Off the top of your head, Foster, do you also know how good South Alabama is in the
Not
Sun Belt? Because I was
off
going to
the
be
top
really,
of my
I was going to
head.
be really impressed if you
I
did.
don't believe they're one of the top teams, though. I think South Alabama's kind of middle of the pack.
South Alabama is actually pretty good. They're 17-7. They are 7-4 in the conference.
Oh,
So
right, good for them.
these are pretty good teams that they're taking their losses to. A 1-point loss against Georgia State, another conference rival. So by all rights, this Arkansas State team, pretty battle tested. But
Yes.
that 1-point loss against Georgia State, they're 9-16. They're also 6-6. That's a middle of the road Sun Belt team. And it's not so much losing to them. I'd be fine truly with Bowling Green losing to them because by all rights, a good team.
Yes.
You cannot lose games in the way that they lost
By
that one
37
and
points.
by that margin.
Yes, and at points trailing by more than 40 points is not good, to say the least. This Arkansas State team shooting 32.7% from three
I want to
on
touch
this season.
Oh, finish. Yeah.
They shot 41.9% from three in this game.
Shooting even better.
Yeah.
What I want to touch on, I don't think you said this yet, and this was the biggest thing to me. At halftime in this one, Arkansas State 40, Bowling Green 14.
Yes, it took.
No serious basketball team can score 14 points in a half. I mean, that is inexcusable.
Yeah,
I mean, you had a good
bad.
second half. 40 points is what they scored in the first half. Like, Arkansas State scored in the first half. You had a good second half, I would argue. I mean,
It was a solid second half.
Yeah.
But Arkansas still put up 50 in the second half. So even if your offense is looking good, the defense was nowhere there. It took till the 12-minute mark in the first half for the Falcons to get their first basket. And that was a Campbell layup.
12 minutes in or 12 minutes remaining?
12 minutes remaining in the first half. So
Okay.
8 minutes into the first half
Still
of play.
insane. I mean,
yes, it's insane to not be able to score.
I mean, how many possessions is that?
basket.
Like,
It's a good amount. I'd say you
I
should
mean, if
get
each
up.
team takes like 30 seconds on average or whatever,
Yeah,
it's like
maybe
16 possessions.
Yeah, 16 possessions.
And
You
can't-
had 1 point before that, which was a free throw by Campbell. He made one of two. And at halftime, you had two players who had scored. Javante Campbell and Josiah Shackelford. Campbell had 8. Shackelford had 6. It's just inexcusable. You can't. There's no way you can even say there was a positive in that game, because there wasn't. They shot 8% from 3. There's no positives to be like, oh, we did this well, we did this well. No. The 1-3-1 that they run game in and game out, they call it web, a little bit different for us. Arkansas State taking advantage of the entire game. One of their players, I believe, shot 6 for 10 from 3. Yeah, 6 for 10 from 3 in 25 minutes of play. 18 points, led the team. Any team that can shoot that well and you can't get them out of a rhythm is going to have just a field day, because, every team can shoot. And if you get them into a rhythm, and if you watch the game, you could see it, they'd step over half court, and the Falcons would be in that 1-3-1. They'd make 2 passes, and the ball would be in the corner, and it'd be a wide open 3, and they're just knocking them down. It snowballed really fast, I think is the best way to say it. At one point, it was a 30-something to 12 run for Arkansas State. They were just laying it on. And when that happens, it seems like the Falcons just don't know how to get it done, because Arkansas State was throwing that 1-3-1 zone at them as well. Something you would assume that they've practiced so much that you would see in practice. They know how to break. They just could not handle it. And that may be because the lack of shooters that Bowling Green has, or consistent shooters, I should say. Shackelford has been a good shooter at times this season. Ruffin has been up and down as a shooter. Justin Thomas, before going down in the Miami game, was a decent shooter. Coming back, he hasn't been able to really find his footing. Towns has been up and down as a shooter. He had a great game versus Kansas State, during the non-conference schedule. Hasn't really found that footing. Troy Glover, not a shooter. He's a center. You're not going to expect that from him. But they haven't been able to find anyone outside of Shackelford and Campbell who have really been able to stick it and just play game after game consistently. Myar Wool had a couple good games, 32 points in one game, but hasn't been able to find it since then.
I mean, Meyer Wall, to your point, started the game, only played 12 minutes, 0 for 6.
And so I will say, Meyer Wool, as great of a player as he is offensively, teams do like to pick on him on the defensive end, especially when they go into that 1-3-1 zone. They will put more on his side to make him make a decision of where to go, and then just take that. Once he picks one side, they're going the other way from him. He's got the long arms to get the steals, and he does like to gamble for steals a lot. And so when he does that, they're just going away from him.
Other stats, on just even looking at the box score alone tells you a lot about this game if you weren't able to watch or listen to it. Javante Campbell, 38 minutes, 4 for 14 from the floor. Shackelford, 4 for 12 from the floor. Sam Towns, 4 for 12. Justin Thomas, 0 for 4. Meyer Wall, 0 for 6. Javon Ruffin, 3 for 4. I mean, credit to him, honestly, in his 15 minutes, I'd argue he had one of the better games, but he also even had 2 turnovers, which close to the highest, I guess. Josiah Shackelford had 4.
Yeah.
Troy Glover, 25 minutes. He made both attempts from the floor and he made a free throw. So, I mean, fairly inoffensive game. A couple blocks for him, too. I mean, nobody played that well.
No,
to be
nobody
honest.
did.
Not one guy played that well. If you had to pick, like, the best performance, I mean, you could...
Campbell, 6 steals.
Campbell, 6 steals. You could maybe argue Glover, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 4
Yeah,
rebounds, and he made both of his shots.
I will give Glover a lot of credit. He struggled early in the season. Not, first year in Division I,
Yeah.
coming from JUCO. He's, as the season has rolled on, he's really started to find his footing much better than beginning of the year, and he's becoming a solid contributor, especially down low in the paint, defending.
And I mean, a couple fouls, sure. As many as the team high is 3. Sam Towns had that 2. Campbell had that 2. But no turnovers. I mean, yeah, you're looking at Javonte Campbell is always solid. And, Troy Glover, less volume certainly. So, we'll give Campbell the credit for, sometimes he has to take that many shots. But 4 for 14, still not getting it done against any serious team in the MAC.
No, not at all. And any team that goes 7 for 17 from 3 in the first half, which is 41.2%, that is extremely hard to beat. It wasn't like they were taking rush threes or they were just searching for threes. It was, this is what the defense is giving us. We'll take them, and we're just going to make them all because there's nobody within, arm's length away from us.
You know what I think is the worst part about this game is, like you mentioned, Foster, we run the 1-3-1, and if they were also running it, why can we not break it?
It does.
Like, I know you said we don't have shooters, but you should be able to break what you run, in my opinion.
You would say that, yes. A lot of what Bowling Green runs relies heavily, and sometimes to its detriment, on Javonte Campbell downhill, kicking out, and that 1-3-1. I mean, they communicated to a high level, and they knew where Campbell was at all times, and they didn't. They would let Towns or Thomas in the corner. They were not scared of either one of them shooting a 3 in the corner. So when that ball would go there, they'd close out, but they'd still have plenty of room to defend back to the Campbell, which is where all their eyes went, which is what most teams do. It's just this game was probably to the highest level of this team has a problem shooting and having consistent shooters, and when they can't shoot even from within the arc, they're going to get run off the court.
I mean, it feels, even supposing Bowling Green, clean up that efficiency a little bit. Not only, do you have some tough sledding, you've got Toledo, Kent State, Miami. I guess you have NIU first, but then 3 of your next 4 is Toledo, Kent State, Miami. That's, tough sledding. Even if you can clean up that efficiency, I mean, it kind of feels like the easiest scouting report possible. You know what I mean? Like, I have a hard time thinking that teams, who have to play Bowling Green still aren't going to look at the Arkansas State tape and, be like, well, pretty trustworthy formula on how to beat the Falcons.
We don't have to worry about Towns in the corner shooting a 3 or Thomas shooting a 3. Shackelford, he can get going very fast, and that's probably why he's one of the more dangerous players on the team. Same with Myar Wool. If they leave him open and he knocks down his first couple of threes, then he's in for a big game. But if he misses that first 3 or if he shoots 3 threes and he misses, if he goes 1 for 3, he's going to be in for a rough night. But it's one of those things where we've seen this team at a very high level compete. I know that, Kansas State is having a down year, but they're still Big 12. Utah Valley, we lost to them, but they're, top of the Big West. They're, a good team. They're good. These good teams. The biggest problem is they have came out slow in so many games. Miami of Ohio, they took a 10-point plus lead. Akron took almost a 20-point lead against Bowling Green. Kent State took a big lead in the first half. All these games, it's the same kind of thing. Stumbling out of the gates, can't really find a footing, working to dig yourself out of, a huge deficit, almost 30 points at halftime, and then you have to start chucking up threes, and this team can't handle that kind of action. They're not a three-point shooting team to as much as they want to be. When they start to get down, it's something that you can almost chop it up as if they're forced into threes, unless Campbell's hitting his, Shackelford's hitting his, and Wool's hitting his, and you get Thomas knocking down a couple on the occasion, you're going to be fine. But the times that they've all been hitting their threes at the same time, I don't think, besides the Kansas State game, I don't think there has been one.
No, and that's exactly what I was going to mention is those inconsistencies exactly. You mentioned those slow first halves and all those games that we've seen, and we keep seeing that. And then we also see the inconsistencies with the three-point shooting. There's some games like Shackelford or Wall light it up, and it's like, oh, we're so back.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have games like this Arkansas State one that's like, is
so
this a fifth grade team? Like,
Yeah.
what is going on? And what's unfortunate, too, is that it's not something that it's like, oh, our free throws aren't bad, let's shoot more free throws in practice, or our man defense isn't good, like, let's work on that. It's like a consistency thing. And we're in these press conferences talking to Coach Simon about this, and he's like, oh, in shoot around, like, they're shooting great, but then we get to the game and it just doesn't happen.
You would expect them to shoot great and shoot around. That's the, those are uncontested wide open shots.
Exactly.
These are, you're getting contested here. And, pre-game shoot arounds, they're knocking shots down. You can see it. They get into the game and they get a couple defenders on them, and it's just inconsistency.
Yeah, and even in that Texas State game, one of the first games,
yeah.
that was also, if you remember, a very slow first half, and then they ended up winning 83-48. But
came off the bench and lit it up.
That was when he was perfect shooting. Yeah,
perfect
so
shooting night, yep.
this inconsistency problem that they've seen it's been a whole year thing. This hasn't been something recent.
Yeah, this isn't anything new. I believe after the Ball State game, head coach Todd Simon told us that was probably the most well-rounded game they had played all season. And
certainly felt like you were headed in the right direction.
It did look like, the defense was there. They were getting steals. They were forcing Ball State into bad shots. But then, you turn around and you put up a 37-point loss in Arkansas State. It's inexcusable, to say the least. You cannot have expectations to make the MAC tournament and win a game, because those are the baseline expectations right now. Todd Simon needs to be making the tournament. Same as Fred Shamil. They both are expected to be making these tournaments with the teams that they have, bringing back Campbell. And going out there and having these types of games, mentality-wise for the team can be bad, but just for other teams to see, all we have to do is throw this 1-3-1 zone in at them, communicate, and let their corner shooters be Towns and Thomas, and we should be fine. Now, Thomas can get back on the right track. We've seen him do it. He's still working his way back from a bit of an injury. Towns has been up and down all season. It'd be nice to see him get back on track, but it's just been something that, from top down, they've stumbled out the gates all season long, and it's got to be fixed. It's inexcusable to come out of the gates this slow.
Well, and I think that's part of the frustrating part, too, is that you look at some of their games in the second half, like that Miami second half, completely different team for Bowling Green. It's like, if the first half was like the second half,
they might be the only win against Miami that the team has all year. Absolutely. I mean,
who is a undefeated team, the only one?
Yes,
in
they're the only
Division I basketball.
There's two Division I basketball teams that are undefeated still.
Okay.
Arizona, who's number 1, and number 23, Miami.
Yeah, so and I think that's part of the frustrating part about it, is that there's these glimpses where it's like, man, like, this team can be so good, but then you have games like the Arkansas State one that it's
the second half of Kent State, the second half of Akron, where they were down early. They've clawed their way back into this game. With Kent State, they were down by 2, not even 2, by 1, with 10 seconds remaining, and they don't call a timeout, get a shot up, which it wasn't a bad shot. Myra Wool was having his career night. Then you give it to the hot hand. He doesn't make the turnaround jumper from the free throw line extended. You live with those kind of losses, but at the same time, maybe call a timeout, maybe, don't come out slow with foul trouble with Sam Towns in that Kent State game. There's so many different variables that you can control as a team that have just eaten away at your season all season long, and now that you're sitting in right on the bubble of MAC play. You have to almost be perfect again down the line because you got Toledo, Kent State, and Miami as your first 3 games after that NIU game. It's Toledo, Kent State, Miami. All at the Toledo and Kent State are at the Stroh Center, and you have to travel to Millett Hall. Have fun there. That stadium is going to be packed.
Yeah.
On a Friday night.
CBS.
On 8:30 at CBS.
Yeah.
Yes. That's going to be a packed house.
Could that be a bigger blowout than the Arkansas State game?
No. I do not think. I think Bowling Green will have better game against Miami than they will against this Arkansas State for some reason. Partially because of repetitions of seeing teams.
Okay, that's fair.
I also don't know how much worse you could get, respectfully.
Yeah.
Also true. Yeah. I mean,
It's very hard to get worse than that. There were points where it was a 42-point lead for Arkansas State in this game. So, could it be worse? Yeah. But this being the bar of really bad play this season, that's a hard bar to top.
I feel like the thing is the score doesn't even like put into perspective how bad it actually was. Seeing you talk about it, Foster, like I feel like the score could have been way worse. We had a really good second half. Is what it seems
We
like.
had a great second half, and it almost
Per
feels
normal.
Yeah, it feels like if we can stay in these games, not even have like a great first half, just have like a
average,
a mediocre
yeah.
first half of play. Akron, Kent State, Miami, all could have been wins. Toledo, we were trailing by 1 against Toledo, and that was the game where Glover was on a hot start to begin the game, got a technical after an offensive foul, and was pulled for the rest of the first half. How does that change? Because Glover was, he was facing Austin Parks, an Ohio State transfer, and he was, face to face with them, going at him, playing great. You just look at these games, you're like, starts, things you control, and shooting. And one of those things is, up and down, and you're going to have those games. That's how basketball works. You're going to have great shooting games. You're going to have bad shooting games. But offensive foul technicals, that's something you can control. There's no need to slam the ball after you get a foul. But,
I think the weirdest thing for me is that probably the time you want to be the most hot is towards the back end of the game, obviously. But you're having such bad starts to the game that it doesn't even make a difference.
You're digging a hole you can't climb out of.
Yeah, exactly. Because even as hot as you are, you can't climb out of it because it's so bad of a first half.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because I feel like almost 10 times out of 10 you'd rather have a hot finish than a hot start.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what this team has done. They've found a groove. That UMass game in Amherst, their first time playing UMass as a part of the MAC, they were down, I don't know, they were down just going into the final 10 seconds of play, down by 3. Campbell gets fouled. This was Campbell's 47-point game. He hits all 3 free throws. They win the game. They were hot down the stretch after trailing. We've seen it when they keep it close, especially down the line. They're one of the better teams. Problem is, down the line, they're still at such a deficit that they can't get into anything. They're falling apart in these big moments. At one point, they were down by 3 to Akron, and Akron went on a 9-point run and just put it out of reach for the Falcons. It's just something that all season long we've talked about it, that they dig a big hole, they climb their way out of it, they get within 3, and then they can't get over the top.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's much more that can be said that you haven't already covered, Foster. Not making fun of you. I mean, just genuinely. And the craziest thing is they're still 7th in the MAC.
Yeah.
And you do have, I think for as tough of a schedule as you have, you do get to play Eastern and Western and Northern
Eastern
Illinois.
gave us fits already.
Well, I know. I'm just saying those
beat.
are all teams that, for one reason or another, are currently below Bowling
Yes,
Green.
You'd rather be playing Eastern than Miami.
I would be,
That's
yes.
the best way to
But
put it.
unfortunately, we have to play the
Bold
both still.
take.
Unfortunately, we still have to. It's a
Eastern's
tough back half of the section.
confusing
They are.
Because how do you go to overtime, double overtime against Kent State, and then
Well,
you lose
can
by
you-
35 to CMU?
Check that Kent State game. Was Braylon Green playing that game? Because I know he was here last year, and he transferred out. He was playing really well against Bowling Green. 22 points against us.
Could have also just been a revenge game.
Well, no, he had been playing very good down like that MAC
Okay,
line.
then
He had
never mind then.
really started to fall into a really good rhythm. And he hasn't played in the last 3 games, I believe, for the Eagles. So
Braylon Green did play that game. He had 11 points.
Yeah, he's been finding a good rhythm with Eastern Michigan. So I will give him the credit that he deserves. He's been playing well. But, I mean, you look at the back half of the schedule, Northern Illinois, that should be, you should win that game. We say should, we should have beat Central Michigan. It's, MAC basketball.
I think it's kind of like what we said on that women's slate, where, like, at minimum, you have to beat the teams below you.
There's not many teams below you, unfortunately.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
You
So,
got
like,
3 teams below you.
You have to win all of those games in my mind.
You
and
can't
you have 3 ahead of you in Toledo. You got, actually, you might have less. Miami is ahead of you. Toledo's ahead of you. Kent State's ahead of you. And UMass is ahead of you. So you got 4 teams ahead of you.
And 3 behind.
3 behind. You have to find a way to beat Toledo at home. Kent State's defense has not been nearly what it has been in recent years. If you can find a way to beat Kent State at home, that'd be a huge boost. So you have to take one of Toledo and Kent State. You have to beat every team below you. If you can beat UMass, that's turning the season around. I'm not going to even put that in my mind, because last year we traveled to UMass and we got run off the court by them. And this year's team is significantly better than last year's team, as said by national ranking, undefeated in the conference, undefeated in the year.
Miami, you mean?
Miami, yes. Miami,
Okay,
Ohio.
okay.
Sorry.
Very good.
And then you have UMass, who, although they had a rocky start to MAC play, they've really figured it out as of recently.
Yeah, I mean, you even look at the first meeting between the teams. I mean, that's not
A 1
anything
point.
but a competitive game. I mean, you can't expect anything less than that
No.
the second time.
So you're going to have to find a way to knock up 1 win. You have to get 1 extra win somewhere, whether it be Toledo, Kent State. I mean, I'd say 2 would be your best bet, with Toledo, Kent State, or UMass. It's finding consistency is the biggest problem. Are they going to be able to find a consistent spot and do that?
Yeah, and I think I talked about it during the women's part too, is to even like have a shot in the tournament, you're going to have to get on some type of run. I mean, you can't even losing 2 games, like, yes, you'll make the tournament, but will you be that consistent and that like much of movement forward? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's always the question of how long can the undefeated continue to maintain its reign of terror. But I mean,
for Miami, a long time.
The way they play down the line, it looks like they can do it forever.
Miami's going to ruin a lot of March Madness brackets.
In my mind,
I'm going to go all the way.
It's not crazy to say that.
It's not ridiculous. But in my mind, I mean, it's the same. The 8 seed is as good as a first round exit.
Yep.
Like,
especially against
a
Miami.
secured first round exit. Miami's, I guess Akron only has 1 loss. Like,
Miami's
there's some wiggle
already
room.
clinched.
But, like,
Miami's already clinched their playoff spot, which is insane. They clinched it before the Sun Belt Challenge. I think they clinched it with 2 games going into Sun Bowl.
That's got to be
in the tournament. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Crazy work.
The only team, I'm not much of a basketball guy, especially compared to Foster, so take this with a grain of salt.
I mean, LeBron James isn't much of a basketball guy compared to Foster.
The only team I could see beating Miami is Akron.
Yeah, I
can see
mean,
it.
So I'm going to say
revenge
something that
of
maybe
last year's
not as
MAC
many people think. I think any team in the top 8 can beat this Miami team. I think it comes down to, down the line, are you able to stop them from getting second chance opportunities? Because down the line, they get second chance opportunities probably more than any other team in the MAC. They crash that offensive board after a 3-point shot, and it's not crashing the offensive board like everybody's in the paint. It's 3 of their players take steps inside the 3-point line because they're taking a lot of threes. Those shots are long rebounds. And with all the players in the paint, they get a second 3-point opportunity right after that, and they get the second one normally falls for them.
I mean, the thing is, I think basically any team to contend with Miami, you have to, under no uncertain terms, play your best game outright. Miami does not have to play their best game.
Even if Miami plays their worst game, they can still beat most of the teams in the MAC. That's just how they're built. That's just how good they are this season. They can have an off game and still figure out a way to win, and that's what championship level schools, especially programs in the MAC, have done. Akron has done it before. They may not have their best game, but they figure out a way to win, and that's what you're looking for if you're looking to win the MAC.
That's why I feel like, I mean, 8 seed is walking the plank. Like, it's
Yeah.
So it boils
As
down
of
to
right
it.
now, Buffalo, who took them to overtime once a season, but it's rough. Once you get to Cleveland, it's a whole different game.
Yeah, definitely a lot to watch.
What's crazy about Miami too is that they lost their best player, and yet they're still
Yeah.
playing to this level of.
This
Like,
isn't
wow,
the
it was
final
not just-
form of
I was gonna say when they were like winning games early and then he goes down, it's like, oh well, I guess that was a fun it was
That was
fun.
a good
That
season.
was a
for
fun
them.
season.
They
Yeah,
looked good.
they
Just
they
take
have
a
how many
big
wins?
step
The
forward.
opposite of what the Colts did this season.
All right.
Sorry, Foster.
Come on.
I had 8 great weeks of football. I don't know what happened after that. Actually.
Sorry, I
Well,
had to.
that's more than a lot of people can
Yeah.
say.
How'd your season go, Noah?
We don't have to talk about that.
Anyways, yeah, a lot to write on the ship for Bowling Green. Foster, is there any? I'm gonna ask you specifically. Any stone unturned there?
I don't think so. Unless we wanted to get into their offensive sets, and that's a whole. We can talk a whole hour about the offensive
Foster
sets.
needs his own
I don't.
podcast for that.
Yeah. To check out Foster talking about just advanced analytical stats for Bowling Green's offense, tune into Falcon Radio at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
that's
3
when
a.m. to 3 p.m., guys. I'll
that's
be
where
there
they're
all
putting
day.
that show. Bowling Green men's basketball will get back to action this Wednesday, February 11th, at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Tip-off in Northern Illinois against the Huskies. Foster, who do we have on that one? Do you know?
It's. I don't know. I think it's one of me or Tyler writing the recap. It may be Artie. I don't know if we have that one set up yet.
You mean you guys aren't traveling?
We are not going to
Whoa.
DeKalb.
Well, the preview and recap will be out collectively from Tyler, Foster,
one of us will
and
do it,
Artie,
hopefully.
as per usual.
Yeah.
So check out bgfalconmedia.com to keep up with that, as always. One more sport in action that we got someone here to talk about. The softball team kicked
Yes.
off their season,
Well,
and we
I
have
would say-
Dawson Pelter
I wouldn't
here.
say kicked off their season. What would you say? Pitched off?
Oh, pitched off.
Yeah, don't pitch me off, buddy.
All right.
Anyways.
Let's not forget who's the host of the show.
That's true.
Yeah, Foster. When
Foster-
Foster's voice suddenly goes really, really quiet, and you don't know why.
That was my mic.
Anyways, softball, which first of all, as this is the first time we really talked about them this season or this school year, want to make the acknowledgement. Huge step forward under Coach Michelle Gardner last year. I mean, monumental difference, night and day, between 2 years ago and last year. So an exciting team to watch certainly, as they kind of get back on track to being a, frankly, a respectable program now, because 2 years ago they were not.
Yeah.
And they had the 1868 Classic this weekend. They played 2 games against Queens University and Hampton in Hampton, Virginia. And Dawson, take it away, enlighten us. Take us through the weekend a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned the steps taken forward from last season. Obviously, Coach Gardner taking huge steps forward with this program. We talked to her, Ben Korek and I, shout out Ben, last week, kind of about last season. And she said that last season was establishing that culture, right? Kind of what the program, what her vision was and what she wanted to look like. And so now it's time to kind of put that in action. She established that. Now it's time to actually go. And I mean, starting off the season 2-0, can't do any better than that. It is against Queens. They were 16-36 last year, so not the greatest, but not the worst either. And then Hampton was 15-34 last year. I was in data structures class watching these games, and the first one did scare me a little bit.
That's dedication
Yeah,
right there.
I know, right? A little bit of
I would never watch a sporting event in class, not me.
It scared me, the first game did, versus Queens at first. But then they were held hitless through the first 5 innings, and then 2 runs in the 6th, then 5 runs in the 7th, ended up coming out on top. So that was obviously great to see. And then game 2 versus Hampton, absolute slugfest, ended up winning 11-9. So there were some kind of pitching struggles there. In game 2, Delaney Wendell only lasted 2 innings before getting taken out. Game 1, Kenzie Krafik gave up 2 runs in the first 3 innings before being taken out. But regardless, first games of the season, that's expected. That's all right. We're okay with that. Addie Martin, she just
Continues to impress, really. I mean,
came right back where she left off last year. She had 13 home runs last year, two-run home run in Game 2 versus Hampton. It's a great start to the season when you start off 2-0. Unfortunately, the next day of the Classic was canceled due to the weather, but 2-0 regardless is great. They next play in Greenville, South Carolina for the Purple and White Classic. That'll be the 13th through the 15th versus Lipscomb, Townsend, and Furman. So I'm really excited for that. Those games as well.
They always travel all over the place to start the year, man.
They
That
do,
always catches me off guard. You're in Hampton, Virginia, and then you're in South Carolina. You're in Tennessee, Johnson City. Then you're in Florida. And then you're back in South Carolina. And then you get to Missouri Field for the first time March 13th.
Yeah. How fast baseball and softball seasons sneak up on you is insane.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy.
Like, I think basketball season sneaks up on people when they're watching football.
And
Baseball and softball sneak up on you real fast.
It's snowing out, and they're like, hey, you want to start the preview for softball? It's like, oh, this is... we're already going.
In this weather?
You know,
hey, there's snow on the field. I don't think we can do anything right now, guys.
You know, that reminds me of a hot take of my own, but I will shelf it for a little bit later.
Ooh.
But the snow on the field, let me come back to that.
Okay.
But, you know, you mentioned the record of Queens. Same record as Bowling Green, 16-36. Same record Bowling Green had last year. So, I mean, that's not...
That's
you know,
pretty even
that's a solid win.
Yeah,
I think you're very happy with the weekend. I mean, you take both available wins. You're on to, you know, Lipscomb and Towson and Furman in Greenville, South Carolina. Schools you don't see Bowling Green teams going against too often here. But, yeah, I mean, you know, only positives so far. And, you know, I feel like there's almost not too much to talk about yet just because it's like, hey, you know, solid start. Pitching's got to get in rhythm. Eddie Martin's still excellent.
Yeah.
But, you know, hey, not a bad way to start it off.
No, absolutely.
Great way to start the season off. Anytime you can get a win as you're still making, like, culture changes to the place, I think that's a great way to start. That's like we talked about with football. Horrible football as a like a regular season, but we beat Toledo. And there's like upright
you got
spot.
some momentum.
Like,
You've got a stronger recruiting class.
Isn't it number one in the MAC? Our recruiting class for this.
It at least I don't know if it still is, but it was.
It's one of the best coming in the MAC. So the same thing can be said with softball. Great, you know, starting the season off strong. Can't ask for anything better. You know, players take their strides as they're growing with the team, and that happens. The team, and as that happens, the team will grow and continue to look better and better.
It's only upward from here for sure.
There is no such thing as a bad win. There's an ugly win. But there's no such thing as a bad win.
Wins are wins. Take them as you can get them.
Yeah. Slow start scared me,
coming from the
got
basketball beat.
Hey.
Wins are hard to come by.
I gotta remember to put Noah and Foster on at the same time. We're on cinema. Softball will get back to action this upcoming Friday, February 13th, 11 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. First pitches against Lipscomb and Towson in Greenville, South Carolina. Ben Korak will have the preview. Dawson Pelter right here will have the recap of that action on bgfalconmedia.com as always. Haven't plugged it yet today. You can also check out the BG Falcon Media YouTube for events that we cover in person. You'll have video highlights, press conferences, and much more available for those, as well as rebroadcasts of our live play-by-play in color and re-uploads of this show as well. So be sure to check out BG Falcon Media on YouTube as well as bgfalconmedia.com. Better yet, just bookmark them all while you're at it. At BG_FMSN on Twitter X as well. However you care to call that platform. BG Falcon Media on Facebook. You can find it everywhere. Check it out. Bookmark it. Share it with your friends. A lot of content out there going up to keep you up to date with BG Sports. So definitely check that out. That kind of covers everything that has gone into action. The biggest thing remaining, the kind of elephant in the room, baseball has their first weekend of the year coming up, the 13th, 14th, and 15th, against number 5 Georgia Tech. Noah Seeley, one of our baseball beats. How are we feeling?
Well, listen, this is going to be a tough matchup. These 3 games, well, to take it with a grain of salt, it's going to be the first weekend. You're going to get a lot of the nerves out, obviously. The baseball team is coming off of a rough ending to last year. But they lost both games on the same day in the MAC tournament in Avon. Don't have as many players. They lost Garrett Wright to the transfer portal, lost DJ Newman to the draft, and lost our closer Connor Penrod to graduating. It's going to be a different team, but from the preview that me and Tyler Kavlitz had written, they seem like they're going to be pretty confident. They're going to go in there with a chip on their shoulder, and they're going to be ready to go. Maybe you won't see it in this first weekend against Georgia Tech. Maybe you will. Maybe they'll pick up 2 games, and you're like, holy cow, this is going to be crazy. But
if they pick up 2 games, they better be nationally ranked after that. I mean, if they beat number 5 2 times out of 3, give them a ranking. At least 25.
To pick up a win in general would be nice. But to take the weekend coming up with a grain of salt, that's what I would say. You never know. You never know what could happen, and play after that.
As much as I would love to try to evoke a reaction of some kind from you, I'll again, stand on consistency. It's at a conference, it's a highly ranked team.
Yeah.
You gotta just take what you can get, kind of see what the team's made of. Especially like having this one the first of the weekend of the year is crazy.
See,
get it out of the way.
I was always told, judge a team by their first game they play.
Oh,
and
really?
that's how you set the standard.
Who told you that, Foster?
That's me. When it's with baseball and Noah.
Look only at this. Look at it in a vacuum.
See this? This is the team that they are.
But, as you said, Georgia Tech, big weekend for the baseball team. Coverage of that, preview coming from Tyler Kavlitz for this weekend's action. We'll have different recaps from different members of Falcon Media Sports Network. Exciting there. Noah, right here, we'll have the recap of Friday's action. It's a 4 p.m. one, so you can expect, regular baseball ending time around then they'll have that recap out for you. Saturday, our own Sam Bork will be on the recap for that. For Sunday's action, Tyler Kavlitz will have the recap. So definitely check out bgfalconmedia.com. A lot going on there, a lot to be excited about as we are back once again. Next week will be our only the second show of the year with 5 sports going. Wow. We get baseball and softball both active as opposed to football and volleyball, at least as far as like the primary sports go. So a lot of excitement there for sure. That kind of wraps up our schedule previewing, but because it is a very special Sunday of the year, I would be remiss if we didn't wrap up and talk about the obvious. We're not talking about Gatorade this time. We're talking about the actual game. I know Foster's disappointed. He wants to talk about more sports beverages.
UAB basketball game. That's what it is.
Rice and UAB. What time is that, Foster?
That one's ended.
Oh,
that was the last game of the night.
Still a crazy day.
Are we talking about the Olympics?
There is Winter Olympics active. That is true, too. Lindsey Vohn's story, that was an interesting one. Yeah. Trying to ski in the torn ACL. Credits for the grit there. But we're going to talk about the Super Bowl. Got Seahawks and Patriots, a rematch 11 years in the making. Who do we got?
Wow, I feel old now. I did not.
You feel old.
First time?
Yeah.
I did not fully remember it. That was 11 years ago. Oh.
So, as anybody who watches the re-upload on YouTube will be able to see, I'm currently wearing a highlighter green Russell Wilson jersey that I got for clearance right when, 15 minutes after he went to the Broncos, maybe. They just started marking it off.
Best time to get a jersey.
Yeah, best time to get a jersey. Add to the closet. Yeah. As long as it's not a team that's actively my enemy, right. I can rock some of their gear and
absolutely
not have any reservations about it. But that in mind, I thought it was appropriate game day attire because I think, respectfully, the Seahawks are going to kind of bring the belt today.
That's where I'm.
I'm
leaning to the Seahawks.
My thinking.
As much as I like Mike Vrabel as just a head coach, I think Seattle has a much more well-rounded offense. JSN and Cooper Kupp, both, I think
at their best, they looked better, and against a way harder schedule. I think the Patriots have gotten a little too much credit against kind of an easy schedule, and I think, I don't know what they're calling them now. I know it's not the Legion of Boom. They've got some other corny name, but I do think the Seahawks defense is
they have a very
way
good
too
defense.
good.
Their corners are very good for this season, and I think I'm going to go with the Seahawks for this game.
Noah Burkett?
I think that's also just me being a Colts fan wanting to see the Patriots lose.
I'll go last because I think I'm going to have the opposite. So
I'm going with the Seahawks as well. I saw a post today talking about during the regular season who the Patriots have played with the coaching changes. Most of the teams that the Patriots have played, their coaches have since been fired.
It was genuinely 6 out of their 8. The entire division, first of all.
Yeah.
So that's 6 games of your schedule right there.
It's crazy stuff. So and the Seahawks are good. I mean, you talk about the defense, but on offense, Kupp,
and
JSN.
To be the best out of the 3 playoff team division in the NFC.
Yeah.
paints a pretty clear picture to me.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Seahawks. I'm also pretty excited. We talk about the Gatorade bets and stuff. I saw a bet today about whether Patrick Mahomes will be brought up during the broadcast.
Easy money.
That's easy.
Now here's a
Media
guy.
Sports Network does not endorse gambling. However,
So
That's not gambling. That's free
funny.
money.
yeah, I'm interested to see. I'm interested to see if we get a here's a guy who looks like Patrick Mahomes on the broadcast.
Here,
So.
here's a guy.
Drake.
Is he on
Drake
that?
May looks a lot like Patrick Mahomes out there.
Little Mahomes,
Very,
May
very
Mahomes-esque.
Mahomesy.
Burkett, do you have a pick?
I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna be watching the game except for at the very end to see if I got the Gatorade prediction right.
Oh, that's fair.
But,
What are you doing the rest of the night?
probably gonna go out to eat. But I'm a Steelers fan, so if they're not in it, I don't really care. But I
That's
will.
respect to you. I'll respect
I
you.
will say
Crazy,
I'll
but I respect
probably just because fellow Falcon Media Sports Network member Carter Learn's a big Patriots fan. I'll give it to the Patriots for him, I guess.
Okay, so
And with Carter. I
my
respect that.
understanding of it, right, is the Seahawks are the better team, without a doubt. I'm not gonna argue that. But if I had to take a bet on which quarterback is going to play worse or has a chance of playing worse, I'm gonna take Sam Darnold.
Wow.
I feel
He's
like
gonna
Drake
see ghosts
May,
out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Out
Drake May could be
indefinitely
consistent.
mononucleosis.
Wait, who? You?
Drake May.
Oh,
May.
thank you.
Correct myself. Drake May is going to have the more consistent performance.
That's fair.
Like that's what because I could see Sam Darnold just not being able to be there during the Super Bowl. Like
That's
it's
fair.
just it's
Yeah.
gonna be brights are too light for him.
Brights
and
are too
Drake
late.
May-
Brights are too late for you
Wow.
right now.
Wow.
For the
Definitely
listeners,
putting you two across from each other.
for the listeners, it took Noah a good second to realize
That
what
I
we were
said
making
that
fun
wrong.
of.
It clocked me a couple seconds later.
I gotta tell you, I think the opposite. I think more often than not, Sam Darnold performed really well against, the Rams at least one time,
I
the
agree.
49ers.
I agree.
I don't think Drake May's been tested nearly enough. I feel completely opposite of what you're saying, but I respect the take.
I agree. I just think that we haven't seen Drake May play bad, and we've seen Sam Darnold play bad in his career. And we've never seen him in a Super Bowl. That's I'm taking the crazy.
To be
approach.
fair,
That's
never
all.
seen Drake May in the Super Bowl.
No, no,
either.
Yeah.
Listen, I want to be different, guys.
That's fair.
Let me be different.
Okay. The question is though, are we watching the halftime show? Anybody mess with some Bad Bunny?
I'll probably sit through it.
Yeah.
I
Little gasoline. I know Dawson does a little ball. I like that. Well, you heard it here. It sounds like 3 Seahawks, 2 Patriots, so a split room, which is good because I would hate for us to all pick the same team. I hate it when that happens. It's the worst. It's like the automatic jinx. But with that, those predictions in, that's going to go ahead and do it for us here from the Zig Zone. As always, please check out bgfalconmedia.com, bgfalconmedia on YouTube, as well as your social media platforms, and at bg_FMSN to keep up with all of the content going out in our coverage of Bowling Green Falcon sports. Broadcast as always, Falcon Radio and 88.1 WBGU 88.1 FM can be found at the bottom of BG Falcon Media, as well as 88.1 FM here being found on your radio dial where you may be listening now if you are tuned in. So that's going to do it for us here from the Coolant Center studio. Thank you for tuning in on your Super Bowl Sunday. Enjoy the big game. For Foster Rostai, Nathan Burkett, Dawson Pelter, and Noah Seeley, and myself, Holden Ruck. Have a good night, everyone.